Why can't I stop stuffing my face and eating my feelings? If you're new here, I'm Nomi, and in this channel, I share nutrition and wellness advice that will help you to not go to extremes so that you can stop having to start again on Monday. Thank you for watching. So, why can't you stop stuffing food into your face? Do me a favor, as you listen to this, start thinking to yourself what of the points that I'm going to mention here today are actually things that you do and which you are committed to changing effective immediately. So, is this you? Think about this. Do you deny yourself food, bringing stuff into the house, maybe, and potentially then just kind of saying, you know what, if I leave it out of the house, I'm not going to have to eat it. I won't eat it. I won't see it, which means I'm going to eliminate all of the temptation. A lot of this stuff has to do with your intentions of actually eating all the stuff later. Let me explain. One of the first things that will lead to you, and I'm going to discuss 6 things here today. One of the first ones is a physiological deprivation aspect. What does this mean? It's an actual deprivation of food. It's an actual deprivation of maybe food groups. Maybe you say to yourself, I'm not going to have any bread again. I'm not going to have any rice. I'm Latin, so that's kind of like the first thing people think about is like bread and rice. Just like, oh my gosh, no bread and rice. So that's the physiological aspect of it. The thing is that also when you do that, most of the people tend to go to an extreme to where they're going to a very low calorie deficit, which then turns into something like you having hormonal effects. You start binge eating afterwards. The reason why you're having these binge eating episodes are because your body could care less about you wanting to lose fat. It doesn't care that you want to shred. It doesn't care about any of that. What it cares about is I need to keep this person alive, and this person is going below a calorie deficit or a limit that we can survive in. And because of that, I need to start sending signals, hormones. Your hormones start sending you signals like, we're hungry, we need to feed you. We're hungry, we need to feed you. And you can kind of not listen to those at the beginning until they just start going over and over and over. And that's kind of all you think about. So, what do you end up doing? You end up binge eating. That is normal when you're doing these types of diets, when you're thinking, I'm just going to cut the calories, I'm going to take out this food group. You start craving those very things, which leads me into the psychological aspect of deprivation. That's number 2. So, have you ever purchased a car? I think, for example, you purchased a red Toyota and now you're on the road and all of a sudden you see red Toyotas everywhere. Everywhere you go, you see a red Toyota. And that's because what you focus on is what you tend to see more of. You just bought this car, so you see it on the road everywhere you go. And when you do that with food, you start to think, okay, I'm just gonna eliminate this food. Psychologically, studies have shown that even when you actually haven't removed the food yet, because you already thought about it, you already start feeling deprived, which means you start thinking about it, which means you start obsessing about it. Have you obsessed about it? Because I've obsessed about cookies and all the things that I've told myself in the past that I'm never gonna eat, and I end up eating anyway. I'm pretty sure you have too. So when you think about that, that's the reason why you end up kind of like with that last Sunday roundup, that last supper effect, and you start eating all the things in the pantry because they cannot be there by Monday, because that's when you're going to start your diet. So you either throw out all the things, which normally doesn't happen because you tell yourself you're going to be wasting money and you're going to be wasting food, and there are people in other places that don't have food, and how can you do that? So you eat it all to then start fresh on Monday. So that's the number 2. Number 3 is your environment. Your environment of like massively affects you. It affects all of us. It's not just a few of us. It affects all of us, because you have to rely on motivation and willpower, and eventually your autopilot, what you're normally used to doing, wins out. So think, for example, if you've had a get together over the weekend and somebody brings this huge cake, normally what you do with the cake, you put it on top of the cupboard, on top of the counter, and the next day when you come home from work, the first thing you see is the piece of cake. So if you're wanting to maybe eat some apples, but you stored them in the refrigerator drawer, then that kind of like puts you, it's out of sight, out of mind, right? Because the first thing you saw was a cake, so you're going to eat the cake. So maybe put your cake inside of the pantry and put your apples on top of the counter. That's changing your environment. If you're used to maybe having soda just because it's in the fridge, put it in the garage, put it out of sight. And when you're actually wanting the soda, you can go out into the garage, put some ice into a glass, and have your soda. See, notice I'm not telling you to deprive these things. I'm just telling you to curate your environment a little bit more. If your goal is to add more veggies, maybe cut up some veggies, make it easy for you to be able to grab those veggies, have it already chopped up, and put them at eye level in the refrigerator. So it can be like one of the first things you see when when you open the refrigerator, rather. Another thing that you can do to curate your environment is changing things around. So, for example, most people have like a candy drawer staff or a dedicated place in your pantry where you have, I don't know, sweets or things like that. Maybe move that from that location to another. Because when you're going on autopilot to that drawer, maybe you're going just because you're stress eating, because you're emotional, just because you've had a long day. You're going to, by habit, go to that place where you normally have that stash of treats. When you go there and it's not there, that's a great opportunity to stop and ask yourself, am I going into this place because I actually want this treat, or because I'm emotionally eating, I'm bored, not tending to what it is that I'm actually feeling? And ask yourself, what is driving this behavior? What is driving this behavior? What can I do? What do I need right now? Because if I'm not hungry, and I can identify that I'm emotionally eating, or that I'm just bored, it's out of habit that I'm going into this drawer, then what's driving this behavior and how can I pivot? What can I do to give myself what I need right now if it's not actually this, you know? So that's number three. Number four is your mindset. And I have to say, I fall into the all or nothing kind of thinking often because I have a tendency to try to be a perfectionist. And I have been trying to curb this, and I've gotten much better. But if this is something that you struggle with as well, my friend, I want to tell you, practice, practice, practice. Not, don't practice to be perfect. Don't go through that whole practice makes perfect. No, practice makes better, and that is okay. If you are better today than you were yesterday, good. That's good in my book. So that all or nothing thinking that most people fall into, that starting fresh on Monday, starting fresh on the first of the month, that sort of thing, starting fresh at the beginning of the year, that sort of thing will lead you into, once you screw up, which, hello, isn't it normal to eat out with friends and just have someone else cook for you and not have to think obsessively about what's in this meal? That's normal eating, by the way. um, so if you're thinking about that, then you're not going to be enjoying the experience, because in your mind all you're thinking about is how you screwed up. There was no screw up. You're just having meal with friends, and that's totally normal. And doing that, you're also assigning a moral value to food. It's one thing for you to try to eat healthier, which is great because you feel better, but it's more about how you feel than kind of hitting yourself on the head when you deviate from that, which is totally normal. You're going to deviate. That's totally, totally normal. And when you're attaching that moral value to food, it also leads to a uh, to a food scarcity mindset. You know what I mean? It just makes food this like precious commodity where, it's this precious resource where if you run out of way, if you run it, take it away from you rather, it's just like, Lord, if it's going to be taken away from me, I need to have it right now. And that's kind of like where you screw up. You know what I mean? Think about if you go to Macy's. Do we have a Macy's here in Florida? I don't know. If I'm a New Yorker, I live in Florida now. I don't think I've ever seen a Macy's here in Florida. But Macy's is the first store I think about. So if you go into Macy's and you see this beautiful gown, pair of shoes, whatever, appliance for your house, and they're telling you today's the last day of this sale and it's 50% off, 75% off, you're like, I gotta get it. I gotta get it. I have to have it. I have to have it. And I have to have it now. And sometimes you might not even have the money. And you're like, well, I guess I'm going to charge it because the sale ends today. And if I don't take advantage of the sale, then that's it. I don't get this appliance anymore. I don't get this whatever that I'm looking at. You might not have even walked into the store wanting to even get that, which is like the crazy thing about this. It's like, I wasn't even coming in here to get this. But now that it's on sale, I got to get it. And that is what you think about as far as this last Sunday roundup. Oh my gosh, I got to eat all the things because if I start my diet on Monday, I'm not going to have this anymore. So you can see how that last thought of, I won't have this means I need to have it now, as far as like food deprivation and all that all or nothing mindset is concerned. Number 5, you have lost sight of why your choices matter. Now, I like to talk a lot about core values. And if you don't know what core values is, you can let me know in the comments below and I'll be happy to do a video on core values. But if you write down what those core values of yours are, say for example, some people say, I'm looking for connectedness, I'm looking to have one of my core values is family, it might be leadership. So if you're looking at that, you can pull up a list on Google and just put core values list and you're going to see all of those. If you are looking at those and saying, okay, these are my core values, that's one of the things that's going to get you in that direction of actually knowing, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I want to eat healthier. This is why I want to exercise more. And that can actually like give you a sense of purpose for in those moments where maybe it's, you're not out with friends and you're just sitting in your house and you just want to eat. If you're wanting to eat because you're hungry, if you're wanting to eat just because, then this is a moment to ask yourself, is this going to be conducive to the core values that I have set forth for myself? So my advice to you is grab a list of core values, circle all the ones, and yes, do a little bit of introspective work, circle them and kind of make a sentence for each one as to why it's important to you, what makes the value important to you, like how do your habits align with this value, how can you be more true to it? And I'm going to give you an example. So if you say, for example, I want to exercise more, right? And you say that connectedness is one of those values of yours, then you know what? If you want to exercise more and you want to feel connected, one of the ways to do that could possibly be having a friend come along with you on a walk or for a workout and just kind of keep tabs on each other, and you will have some connectedness while you implement that exercise. If one of those core values is leadership, then you'd be leading by example, and so on and so forth. You get the picture. Number 6, change requires compromise. And I want you guys to remember this again has nothing to do with, this all or nothing thinking. Like if you are hungry, great. If you're not hungry, that's where I'm telling you, you need to kind of make some compromises here. One of the best ways that I think to kind of exemplify this is through parenting. I am not a mom, but I've seen this many times. And I hear a lot of moms tell me, oh, you should have kids. Kids are the best. And then they'll turn around a few days later and tell me, oh my gosh, my kid did this and my kid did that. And I wanted to kill them. Or my kid was so sick over the weekend. I spent the entire weekend tending to his or her fever. And you see both ends of the coin, both sides of the coin. And this is like the best example of this compromise in the health, in your health is what I'm saying. Like, for example, if you're a parent, you have a bigger picture of why you're doing this. You love your kid. You are willing to give them the best that you can. You are willing to do as much as you can for them. And that's where kind of like your core value lies. You want this kid to have the best, right? But that's also why you make compromises. You don't say, okay, I'm going to give this kid away because this is too much trouble and it's much more than I bargained for. No, you actually figure it out because this is important to you. You figure it out and you make the compromises necessary in order to be able to take care of your kid, take care of your family, and give them the best that you can. So, with that in mind, think about that. Think about, what this is my core value. These are my intentions or my goals. This is what I'm working towards. Why is this important? And what compromise am I willing to do to get there? And I'm not talking about super difficult compromises, but they have to be within your reach. Remember, your mind is going to fight you on making these ginormous changes if you're not used to it. So start small and always make sure that you're scaling up the difficulty of your habits, because that's really the only way it'll be able to stick long term. There is going to be some discomfort. There is no denying that. And that's okay. You have to be okay with that. If you want to grow, you have to be a little bit uncomfortable. Hello. You have to be a little more comfortable. So, again, which of these things do you notice that you have been doing a lot of? And which are you committed to changing effective now? Leave it in the comments below. And if you found value in this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, turn on your notifications bell. And if you want to be healthy and happy, don't forget, my friends, to stay hydrated and mind your business.